Hey guys, for months we've been dealing with dirty fuel and growth in our fuel tanks. And now today is the day we finally get to tackle that problem. Today we're adding cleaning and inspection ports in our fuel tanks. Stay tuned. If you've been following along and watching our videos, then you'll know that we've been dealing with these fuel problems for quite a while now. Clogged fuel lines, dirty fuel tanks, and it's really caused some problems over the past several months. Now we've tried polishing the fuel and that just didn't work at all. After getting stranded off the north coast of the Dominican Republic, I was able to install a small sea strainer near the tank pickups, and that caught some of the problems, but that was just a band-aid. Now that we're in Puerto Rico, we have access to the supplies and materials we need to fix this problem once and for all. Now I spent a whole day in a rental car tracking down the supplies and materials I needed to do this repair. The sheet aluminum I need for the porthole covers, the rubber sheeting I need for the gaskets, as well as the stainless steel self-tapping screws. Now here's what I did to make the inspection ports. Satori has two tanks. I decided to start with the 50-gallon tank on the port side. This tank has just one small inspection port, so it's too small to get my arm in there for cleaning. So I will be adding an additional port to each section in this tank, which will be 3 sections. The first step is to build the tank access panels in the existing settee. Here I will be adding one large panel on one side and extending the existing access panel on the other side of the tank. Because I will be reusing the cutout section of this panel, I used an oscillating tool to make a clean plunge cut to start the jigsaw. I then added 1" by 2" boards along the side to hold the panel in place. I then located and marked the location of the interior baffles. Then I marked the location of the pre-cut port covers and portholes, as well as the orientation marks. I'm going with a 5" porthole. After marking all 3 ports, I used a drill-powered pump to transfer the remaining fuel into a jerry can. Now this little pump worked well, but when I tried to use it the second time on the other tank, the impeller got chewed up right away, so I don't recommend it for this application. To start the porthole cut, I drilled a hole big enough for the jigsaw blade. It was a little tricky making this cut without enough room to keep the jigsaw flat on the tank, but it wasn't too bad. In hindsight, I should have waited to install the 1 by 2 supports on the side. It would have given me a little more room. Now inside the tank, we get our first look at the previously inaccessible baffle sections and a good look at the source of our clogs. After filing down the burrs, I cut out a piece of the gasket material to match the port cover. I was told by the hydraulic shop where I bought this rubber sheet, this material is diesel compatible. After adding an orientation mark to the gasket, I began drilling a pilot hole for the first screw. You can see here I marked 8 evenly spaced holes for the self-tapping stainless screws. These screws here are about 1 inch, but really I only needed 1/2" screws. Here we get a look at the mid-baffle section. It's pretty dirty. So now it's time to clean this tank out. The next day I grabbed a couple rolls of paper towels and some latex gloves to start cleaning the tank by hand. The first task is to get all the gunk and metal shavings off the bottom of the tank. Here you see I had to put a long sleeve shirt on to save my forearm from getting all scratched up. I then moved on to cleaning the bottom and the sides. I had a can of MEK on board, which is just a cleaning solvent, and that seemed to do a decent job. This whole cleanup took me about 2 hours per tank, so a good part of a day. But there was some staining left on the sides and the bottom. Now I don't really care about that, since the main objective was to really get all the slime and debris out of the tank. Once it was clean, to fill the tank, I ran the engine from the starboard tank, directing the return line into this newly cleaned tank. I then repeated all of these steps on the starboard tank once this tank was completed. And all said and done, I ended up adding 6 new 5-inch access or cleaning ports between the two tanks. Now it's also worth mentioning that now every time we fuel up, we add a biocide fuel additive to the fuel tanks. And so far we haven't had any additional problems. Now, I will admit that I was dreading this project for a long time. I don't like cutting holes or drilling into the boat if I don't need to. And so this seemed like kind of an intimidating big project I didn't feel like taking on. Really, it wasn't that difficult of a project. Now in hindsight, I wish this is something I would have done before I started cruising. Having quick and easy access to every section of your fuel tank is really important. One of my main concerns is whether these ports were going to leak if we had full tanks of fuel and we were sloshing around in rough seas. Well, shortly after this repair, we did a 12-hour passage from Salinas, Puerto Rico, to the island of Culebra. Now, it was a hard beat and it was pretty rough seas, and so we got a really good test of how these tanks would do. When I inspected and pulled the inspection hatches off, there wasn't one drop of fuel on top of those tanks. So we're super happy with how everything turned out.
But I must try to figure it out alone. Yeah, I must try to figure it out alone.
Hey guys, we need your help. We have some pretty amazing fans and an awesome little pirate ship here, but we have room for more on board. So subscribe now and tell a friend. You can also share us on Facebook and Instagram and keep up with our daily posts, as well as our website, sailingsatori.life. If you want to see even more from us, visit our Patreon page, where you'll see extra footage and personalized updates. Every effort keeps a little wind in our sails and helps us keep making awesome videos for you guys.